Hey everyone. Tonight I want to talk about a blog piece that I've literally just finished writing, and it's about the things that restrict us in life. Now, I have used in the title the term slavery, and I understand the seriousness of that term. It comes from a really horrific past where people were literally put in shackles, and I mean, we all understand what slavery is. Hey Boo, thanks for joining. Um, I saw a photo today of a British landowner. Hey Hunter, welcome. A British landowner in Australia, even as late as the 1960s, and there was a little group of Aboriginals with shackles around their neck. And they were considered flora or fauna, so they weren't even considered people, and it was legitimate to keep them like that and have them work the fields for you. So slavery, it's craziness, and slavery is absolutely horrific. One of the things that we don't recognize, though, and I've used the term to really hammer the point home in my latest blog, is that there are other things that we are slaves to in our life. And I don't know if you've heard the saying, the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. In many cases of our lives, we are already in that position. Slaves to the man and slaves to the system, exactly, Boo. So in many cases, our slavery is no longer to another person; it's to ourselves, and that's what my blog article that I've just finished writing talks about. So jump on and have a read of that. It's on hugyourchaos.com, and while you're there, subscribe too, because we're uploading a lot of great things, great articles, great blogs. But there are some things about that I wanted to cover tonight. And when I talk about slavery, anything that's external to ourselves that we've formed a habit around, that we are habitually involved with. It's not just substance, drugs, or alcohol. I mean, when we have those as a habitual problem in our lives, we're definitely slaves to them. But there are other things that we are slaves to as well. And it can be a whole gamut of things, coming everything from our work and what we do, because we feel we don't have a choice. We do what we have to do. We present to a work that we don't enjoy, and we do that day in and day out for 50 to 60 years until we're ready to retire, and then we die when we retire. Yeah, exactly. We're slaves to other people's opinions. We're slaves to our own opinions. We're slaves to our own ideals of what we should look like in the world, where we should live, how we should present, what we should think, what we should feel. And these things keep us locked in that form of slavery. So it's kind of a real conundrum, because the very way that we see ourselves in the world is the very thing that keeps us locked in a form of slavery. And I cover all of that in the article. One of the things that I'll read quickly for you, just to give you a snippet, is if you want to argue the point that there is, which I've had this discussion with people in the past. There is, hey Jamie, thanks for joining. I've argued the point with people before that there's no such thing as slavery in the modern day. It's abhorrent to refer to ourselves as slaves. But if that's the tack you want to take, if I choose not to go to work for a week and not tell anyone, there is a really good chance I'm not going to have a job waiting for me. That means that my decision to not do something that I have to do, hey Troy, welcome buddy. If something that I choose not to do has a serious consequence for me, and I can't face that consequence, if I choose not to go to work, I'm going to lose my job. I'm a slave to that job. Without any way of making any more money, I then lose my home, my car, feeding myself becomes difficult. There's a whole lot of flow-on effects from that. So to me, that's a sign of slavery. We're locked to something that we have to do, or there are serious consequences. If I choose not to pay my rent or the mortgage, then I'm going to be evicted and I will end up homeless. If I choose not to interact with those around me and I lock myself in and I become a recluse, then the people that I have shared my life with will eventually stop wanting to share their life with me, and I start losing friends. I lose contact with family. Making the choices to stop doing the things that I enjoy in life, I slowly grow miserable. The leisure activities. Slavery is when we have to do something and we don't want to do again against our will. Yeah, exactly. So, and then the last point that I made about that, so many of us think and feel on autopilot. I mean, how many times do we hop in the car, we drive to work, and we can't even remember driving to work? You know, we get out of the car at the other end and we're like, oh, that happened quickly. What happened? It's because we're on autopilot. When that's happening and we're thinking and feeling on autopilot, very little conscious input goes into our mental or emotional faculties. We're a slave to our mind and our emotions. I had an experience on Saturday night. I won't go into the details of it here, but it sort of gave me a really hard look at myself and the way that I interact with the world, excuse me, and the way that I tend to, think or feel about things. And my relationship to myself, hey Izzy, welcome. My relationship to myself, to my thoughts and my feelings has changed exponentially from Friday as opposed to Sunday because of what happened to me on Saturday night. And it was a real awakening. It was a beautiful experience, and it's created such an empowerment that I wanted to share that. I wanted to give that to you all, and I've done that by writing the blog I've written, and then I'm also here to talk and discuss that with anyone that wants to discuss it in depth. So it's all about choice, it's about intention, and it's about desire, and that is what sets the difference between somebody that lives their life as a slave on autopilot and somebody that lives a conscious existence. So you might hear the term, I'm living a conscious life. You are living a conscious life when you are at a point where you are making choices based upon what you want. Now, another thing I mentioned in the blog is you can wake up in the morning and you can grab yourself a beer at 10 o'clock or a glass of wine, at 9 o'clock in the morning, and there's nothing wrong with that. I say there's nothing wrong with that because if that was your choice to do that, if you wanted to do it for the experience of it, you just felt like you wanted to do that, then it sounds good to me. If that's what you want to do and you do it because you've made the choice to do it and it's a conscious choice in the moment and then you enjoy it and then you put it away and you get about with your day, there's nothing wrong with that. We become a slave to that when we have to do it morning after morning, and we can't get through our day unless we do that. There's the slavery. So we're slaves to ourself, we're slaves to our mind, we're slaves to our emotions, we're slaves to where we live, we're slaves to the work we do. There's so many things that keep us. Fear, exactly, that's a really big one. Fear and control, they were probably the biggest ones that I was a slave to. Compulsion as well, yeah, good one, boo. But for me, my biggest one was slavery to my fear, and my fear was based on lack of control. So you don't know anything about control. That's really funny. I don't know anything about control. I thought I did. I thought I had a handle on it. I was all about control. I wanted to control every aspect of life. I wanted to control my partner. I wanted to control the dogs. I have a daughter. I wanted to control my daughter. I didn't want her to cry when she was crying. I didn't want to have to deal with it. I have grown up and spent the majority of my life in fear of lack of control and then trying to force control over the world around me. The one thing I have control over is in here. And do you know how we regain control over what's happening in here? Is with this. Yeah, we come back to that breath again, don't we? It's all about the breath. Aho, there we go. That rhymes. It's all about the breath. So we regain control of ourselves in our internal environment through our breath. The breath is what sets us free from our slavery. So we impose our own slavery. We've created the cell that we live in. The doorway is wide open. We can leave it anytime we want. We just have to know how. So take a breath. Remember, I did a video the other night and I was saying that when we get all jacked up in life, we're like this, our environment around us comes up to us and it's right in our face, and we don't have the capacity to think out of a response. We're just reacting. We're on autopilot. We're barking at the world. We're instinctual animals that are growling and barking. You're a Netflix bitch. Nice. I like Netflix, but it's a choice. If I have to sit down night after night and watch Netflix and disregard everything else that we're working towards, then I become a slave to Netflix. If I sit down and I say, all right, I'm going to watch one episode of Once Upon a Time, or whatever the show of the season is at the moment, I sit down, I watch that one, I have my dinner, and then I turn it off and I get back to work. That was a choice. You see the difference? It's the exact same thing. So back here, the world's come at us. It's right in our face, and we're a slave to it. We're a slave to our emotion to that. We're a slave to our thought to that. And the only way that we get free of that is to take a breath, and the breath then gives us that space, and then we can slip a thought in there. And that thought is what gives us our freedom from slavery. So please jump on the blog, hugyourchaos.com. Have a look. It's under the tab for dark, because we've got the two tabs there, light and dark, and it's all about embracing both elements and bringing them together into a combined complete unity within. So come and jump on the blog, check out the latest article. Whilst you're there, hit the subscribe button, and that way you're not going to miss any of our awesome articles. And I look forward to catching up with you all again soon. Have a great night. Mwah.